Hello, I'm Julie, and today I'd like to talk to you about body messaging. And what I mean by that is thinking about noticing and paying attention to our feelings rather than trying to push them away, which is what often as humans we want to do because things just feel too uncomfortable. So, first, I'm going to talk to you about a bit of brain science. So, I'm sure you've probably heard of the fight or flight response. So, if our brain believes that we're in danger, then it sets off a chain of events, and that causes our survival instinct to kick in. So, our amygdala, which is the part of our brain that is like a smoke alarm, it's a bit like blue flashing lights telling us that there's danger and that something terrible is going to happen. When our amygdala gets activated, we become highly aroused and we might exhibit some symptoms such as a raise in temperature or a racing heart. We might start sweating or shaking, or we might become hypervigilant. And if we're not able to calm down or calm ourselves at this point, then chemicals are released into our bloodstream. So we have cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and adrenaline, and they are both released into our bloodstream to help us to get ready to fight or to run away, because this is our basic human instinct, survival instinct. At the same time, the oxygen that's usually travelling around our bloodstream and around our brain gets diverted to our muscles for the same purpose, to help us to get ready to either fight or to run away. If we think about earliest humankind, where our survival instinct started, we're thinking cavemen and women who may have needed to run away from lions, tigers, bears. They would have needed to have this instinct. The important thing to remember is that we do not have to be in danger for this response to kick in. It's when our brain believes that we're in danger, not necessarily when we are. So it can respond to our thought processes rather than the current situation. And this is where you may hear this termed as fight or flight, or the stress response. So if stress or inner conflict is prolonged within our body continues to behave as if it's under threat. So exploring where this first started can open the door to owning and understanding why that stress response remains on high alert. The natural stress response can go into overdrive over time. So if you're someone who is repeatedly experiencing stressful situations, or someone who is repeatedly having rumination, overthinking, lots of intrusive thoughts, then our amygdala can be kind of locked in the on position, and our stress response can be kind of ongoing, and this is when we start to really struggle. So when the brain perceives threat, it heightens the inflammatory response in our body, which can also cause physical pain or delayed recovery from illnesses or other kind of medically unexplained disruption to our body. Once we can become aware of the onset of the events, what the cause was, physical symptoms can be sometimes no longer perceived as just random. Sometimes people say to me, "Oh, I think I'm going mad, I'm going crazy," because they don't perhaps understand what's happening and that this is a normal threat response, but it's just happening at a time when you're not necessarily under threat. So when we can perceive that they're not just random and that they're the result of thoughts and feelings, we can then explore safely and more effectively to find solutions. Those people who have worked with me will know that I drone on and on about feelings as information. And what I mean by that is paying attention to our feelings to work out what they're telling us in order for us to take some action for us to feel better. So if we consider our feelings as just telling us something, they tell us that something is okay or it isn't. And sometimes when it isn't, those feelings can feel quite overwhelming. So naturally, we want to push them away, we want to squash them down, we want to distract from them as much as possible, which makes sense. However, when we do that, we're not getting the information that can help us to take action to enable us to feel better. So the way we do this is by, first of all, noticing what we're feeling. If you're someone who suppresses feelings, you may not be very emotionally literate. You might not be able to name all those feelings. So that is where we would start. So looking up some feeling words, thinking about what fits. Where am I feeling it? Where is it in my body? Is it in my chest, in my tummy? What does it look like? If it had a voice, what would it say? And is there a correlation to bodily symptoms? So with that in mind, I'd like us to think about hearing feelings, validating feelings, so that we can understand what they're telling us in order to take action, so that we can let them go. Physical symptoms such as anxiety can ensure that feelings remain locked in, and therefore the very disaster that your nervous system trying to protect you from in the avoiding of feelings can trigger a stress response, which then undermines the ability for you to be able to feel happy and connected to others and to the world. So if we think about this, body messaging, rather than being the enemy, can be a valuable friend who can signal through your nervous system the need to pay attention to the experiences that you've not yet resolved. Paying attention to those uncomfortable feelings can feel daunting and scary, and I really appreciate that. You know, nobody wants to feel uncomfortable, but if unchecked, they will leak out at some point and possibly end in explosions, and some of you might have already experienced that. So we can learn to give our nervous system a break. We can learn to calm down our nervous system, and we can take care of our emotional well-being in order that we can promote physical well-being and lead us to be able to live in a more positive way. If we do it slowly and safely, just like taking off the lid to a Coke bottle, we do that really slowly, then things can feel much easier. So why not give it a go? Just start paying attention to sensations in your body and just being curious about them rather than harshly judging them. Let's see what happens. Thank you for listening.